Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny Tunes. It's Destiny here. So love is one of the world's greatest mysteries. It's the thing that we all need, we all want, and it's one of those things that we just all want to understand. But whether it be here in the real world or the one on our television screens, love has a way of presenting itself in many different ways. In this video, I want to explore the different kinds of romantic relationships in the animated world, from the ones that are healthy, confusing, and just flat out toxic. When it comes to the way that romance and relationships are represented in animation, you are bound to get love stories that are rooted in unrealistic standard, as well as the ones that serve more as a cautionary tale. But sometimes there will be the ones that hit you in the feels of reality. Now I want to say this before I move on, because I know that there will be people wondering why I didn't talk about specific couples, but let's be real, there are just way too many cartoon couples out there for me to fit everyone in one video, so I only picked a handful for this video. I apologize in advance if your favorite couples aren't included, but with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. It's safe to say that the friends to lover genre is one of the safest options when it comes to relationships in any form of media. When it comes to animated series that revolve around a friend group, chances are this is the kind of relationship that you're going to end up getting. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the safe route, because friend to lover relationships do tend to be some of the happiest and meaningful relationships. When I think of two characters who took their relationship from platonic to romantic, Steven and Connie from Steven Universe are some of the first that come to mind. Steven and Connie's relationship could actually extend through many different relationship types that I'm going to end up talking about in this video, like meeting in unusual circumstances, or maybe even soulmates. I feel like from the very beginning of their friendship, Steven was the one who seemed to have more of the romantic feelings, but all in all, these two characters were craving friendship more than anything, considering the fact that they both didn't have any friends. From the moment that they met in Steven's bubble, this duo only grew together in terms of age, maturity, and their feelings for each other. They are the textbook definition of different when it comes to upbringing and lifestyle, as one of them was raised by literal gyms and a dad who lives full-time at a car wash. On one side, Steven seems like a normal kid, eating junk food, playing with stuffed animals, and addicted to silly TV shows. But on the other hand, he was learning about his gym heritage, which included fighting alongside other crystal gems in order to help protect Earth from both local and intergalactic threats. Connie was just a normal human child when they met, unable to form lasting friendships since her family was constantly moving around due to her father's job. Her parents lead her to live a stricter lifestyle where education is on the forefront. With how different these characters are, we also see a side of them that is also very similar. As time progresses, we see the distances that Steven and Connie go for each other as literal children. Their rhythms are so in tune that they're even capable of fusing, something that gyms weren't even sure was possible. To have a connection so strong, so understanding, and so forgiving that it allows you to fuse your very beings together to form something entirely new just goes to show how intertwined these characters truly are. It's the things like this that make me believe that these two truly are soulmates, because not only does this connection hold up romantically, but I could also see their platonic relationship being one that lasts a lifetime, especially considering everything that they've been through from the beginning to the ending of this series. Now, Kim Possible and Ron Stoppable are another example of this kind of situation. For majority of the series, the duo don't really seem romantically motivated at all, especially Kim, who has multiple romantic interests throughout the series. Like, as a kid, I never really considered Ron as a long-term partner for Kim, and honestly, it felt that their romantic relationship kinda came out of nowhere. But now that I'm older, I understand that majority of happy relationships don't tend to be rooted in infatuation, but rather in the mundane. Like the idea of having someone you can always count on to have your back, or someone that you can enjoy all of life's little things with, just feels more fulfilling. I've seen many people talking about how Kim and Ron's relationship had no build-up, and that the movie finally being what exposed their feelings felt quote-unquote rushed. But the truth is, the series had been building up to that moment from the very beginning. Sometimes the best relationship for us isn't the one that comes out of nowhere, but the one that has been slowly growing alongside us. And much like Steven and Connie, these two characters are very different in some aspects, but they are the perfect balance for each other. Kim is a character who is confident and hyper-focused when it comes to handling her crime-fighting duties, yet in her everyday life, she can be seen as slightly insecure in certain social situations. Also, with Kim always striving to be the best at everything she does, we see the negative effects that she experiences when things don't necessarily go her way. Now with Ron, we have a character who is nothing short of clumsy when it comes to his sidekick abilities. He isn't always the most capable partner, but he will always give it his best. And unlike Kim, in his everyday life, Ron is a very carefree and has that who cares attitude when it comes to the way that he presents himself to the world. Where Kim is shaded, Ron balances her out with his colorful personality. With their history and compatibility, it only made the reveal of their relationship so much more satisfying. The idea of two friends being so different from each other but still falling for each other anyway is a trope that you'll see a lot in the friends to lover genre. In fact, you'll see this trope across all different kinds of relationships. I guess there is some truth to what they say about opposites attracting. But with all of the praise that I've been giving to these kinds of relationships, it's important to note that they don't always end in happily ever after, and sometimes certain relationships aren't meant to be anything more than just a stepping stone, a chapter in our big book of life. Take Ginger and Daryl for example. They were close friends turned romantic partners, and honestly, I really liked what they had going on before things took a turn. I've talked about the episode revealing their breakup in more detail here on my page, but the ending of Ginger and Daryl's relationship is a very realistic one, because no matter the type of relationship you're in with someone, sometimes people change as time passes by, and you sadly find yourself growing apart. Unfortunately, friendship doesn't protect you from these things, but for a large portion of the relationships formed by the friends to lovers tropes, they do end up lasting. Well, at least from what we're actually shown, that is. Something that viewers tend to enjoy more than the friends to lovers tropes is the enemies to lover trope. But what is it about these kind of relationships that people like so much? Personally, I feel like it could stem from the level of understanding and growth that comes from both parties in these relationships. Seeing the amount of effort needed to going from disliking someone to seeing them as someone you can't live without is what makes these relationships more rewarding in the end for viewers. Let's take Helga and Arnold for example, although I do feel that their relationship is a little too complicated to boil it down to like a typical enemy to lover situation. So Hey Arnold was a very layered series that wasn't afraid to touch on serious issues within their episodes. One of those episodes being Helga on the Couch, where we get some insight on some of Helga's questionable choices and behaviors, but we also get to see where her interest in Arnold began. Helga's home life was dysfunctional and unhealthy, leaving Helga to fend for herself at a really young age. Growing up in a household where you feel invisible leaves you grasping for any sort of affection you can get. When Helga felt unseen, Arnold saw her, and from that moment on, she never stopped chasing that feeling of feeling like someone to somebody. Now, were the ways that Helga went about displaying this affection necessarily healthy? Well, yes and no. Now, Helga obviously is obsessed with Arnold, from the stalking and the literal shrine that she made in his honor. The motivation behind her love for Arnold stems from her familial trauma and the need to feel that connection, which can kind of be seen as a red flag because we really shouldn't be using people to fill voids or as band-aids for emotional wounds. Now, there is a better side to the way that this character displays her romantic feelings, like through poetry or just genuinely constantly being there for Arnold. But unfortunately, a lot of the moments we see between these characters aren't really positive ones from what I can remember. Arnold, being the cool, calm, collected character that he was, never completely shied away from Helga, even after she continuously harassed him verbally and even did things that harmed him physically. There seems to be a big chunk of people that don't believe the way that Helga behaved was wrong in any way, which is kinda concerning because Helga was a bully. Even if she was there for Arnold occasionally, it doesn't make up for the fact that she was physically and verbally harmful as a person to almost everyone around her. And yes, I know about her upbringing, but trauma doesn't give you an excuse to be a jerk and to harm people, especially when you know what you're doing. The idea that you get to treat someone horribly in public and they're meant to just accept it because you idolize them in private is hella problematic. And I guess that Arnold and Helga had enough chemistry to have had an actual relationship within the series, but they did the same thing that they did with Kim Possible in the way that they waited until the movie to confirm a relationship between these two characters. Arnold never really showed any romantic feelings towards Helga in the actual series that I can remember. Friendly moments, sure, but nothing that signified that there could have been like a genuine romantic connection between the two. They felt like a bully and her victim, someone who was obsessed and another who was just kind of going with the flow. The relationship between these two characters was so unusual that it's hard to know how to feel about it exactly. One thing that I know for sure is that I'm relieved that Helga at least ended up with someone as kind-hearted and understanding as Arnold is, because with her trauma, she could have gone down a very dark, different road. And I'm also relieved that Arnold at least has someone like Helga in the sense that she will always be there for him whether he sees it or not, and he will always have someone who is definitely like attracted to him. Is she going to be the most healthiest of partners? I don't know. That's a story for another day. But the amount of patience it took from both parties to eventually end up where they did is what makes the enemies to lover trope so enjoyable. The road to happiness isn't always one that's filled with fond memories and tender moments, and I feel like this trope captures that perfectly. I was going to wait to add Tiana and Naveen to a different category in this video, but I think that they fit more into the enemies to lover category. These are two characters who, much like everyone else on this list, are very different from each other, but unlike the other couples mentioned in this video, their differences are actively keeping them apart until it comes to a point of understanding. Tiana and Naveen's differences are as clear as day because it is the very solution to their internal dilemmas. Tiana is a workaholic who is determined to achieve her dreams no matter how much she has to sacrifice to do so, and unfortunately this means giving up any sort of social life and working herself to no end. But she truly believes that if you work hard, things are sure to go your way. Now, Naveen, on the other hand, has never had to work hard for anything in his life. He is a womanizer who lives a life of partying and spending up his parents' money. His views on life is that it's short and, quote, when you're done, we're on this earth to have some fun, unquote. I talked a lot about balance and how it's such a vital part in the development of certain relationships, and we see it again with these two characters. Tiana and Naveen despised each other when they first met. She saw him as immature and privileged, only seeing value in him as an opportunity to push further towards her dream. Naveen saw Tiana as a prude who was incapable of having fun and was leading a life he wanted no part in. He also saw opportunity in her, which obviously landed them in their unfortunate situation. As time progresses and these characters open themselves up to each other, we see just how far the act of genuinely trying to understand someone with different goals and lifestyles within reason can take you in terms of developing a meaningful relationship. With understanding why Tiana was working so hard, Naveen wanted her dream for her just as much as she wanted it. He learned that it's possible to take care of someone more than just himself. When Tiana let her guard down and allowed herself to see Naveen for who he actually is rather than who she thought he was, she understood that her life, her heart, had room for more than just her restaurant, and that it was okay to devote yourself to more than just one thing. These two characters went from butting heads to walking down the aisle completely fulfilled because where one was lacking, the other was there to lift them up. Growth and understanding are the key points for any kind of relationship to thrive, but there's something about the enemy to lover relationships that truly show us the ins and outs of human nature and the realistic roads we have to travel down to achieve happy and healthy romances. With every good relationship that we're presented with in animation, there are also the relationships that never last or the ones that possess a tad of toxicity. In this category, I want to talk about the relationships that ended not because the characters grew apart, but because it just wasn't a healthy situation, and also one-sided relationships and how confusing they truly can be for the people involved and the viewers. Naruto and Hinata are the definition of a one-sided slow burn relationship, and it's so frustrating even to this day. Actually, a lot of pairings in that anime are so confusing and feel like they came out of nowhere. The viewers are made aware of the feelings Hinata had towards Naruto ever since she was a young child, and we only see these feelings grow more and more to the point of literally putting herself in harm's way for him just to have him completely ignore her for majority of the series. Honestly, their relationship deserved so much more build-up because after seeing Hinata devote so much of her heart to admiring, supporting, and loving Naruto, it would have been nice to see him even a little more interested in her. And I get it. I know that Naruto isn't a romance anime, but if we're introducing the idea of romantic partners and such, why couldn't this have been explored even a little more considering the fact that he is our main character? Like, there's literally one movie displaying Naruto's true feelings for Hinata, and then we jump straight into their wedding, which isn't even shown in an actual episode, but instead in end credits. Hinata was my first introduction to true yearning, and goodness, it was always so sad and frustrating to see. The thing is, even after all of those years of yearning, the prize didn't even seem worth it in the end, because when you have a character who would give their all for the other, and then a character who is too clueless to pick up on it, it feels like we as the viewers are emotionally invested for absolutely no reason. There always appears to be some level of cluelessness when it comes to these relationships laced with a tinge of toxicity. Now, if we're talking about a relationship involving Mordecai, then there is bound to be a good combination of cluelessness and toxicity. I recently started actually watching Regular Show with my boyfriend, and goodness, Mordecai is sort of a problem. From not always being a good friend to Rigby, not really developing at all as a character, and being completely incompetent as a romantic partner. The relationship that Mordecai has with CJ was doomed from the start because before they were even in an actual relationship, he was already leaving her out to dry for Margaret. I remember being so confused at why they even started dating in the first place when it was clear as day that Mordecai still had feelings for someone else. Like, the vibe it was giving off was definitely giving rebound, and it honestly made me so sad for CJ because I knew what was coming before it even happened. The relationship between these two characters has to be one of the worst that I've seen in an animated series that's on a children's network specifically. Not only does Mordecai cheat on CJ, but even when they're dating, he doesn't really seem to put in a lot of effort towards furthering their connection. The entire relationship just feels off. I don't even know why CJ would think that it was an okay thing to date someone like Mordecai in the first place, especially considering what he did the first time that they were supposed to hang out. And just like that time, I felt like their entire relationship was just a placeholder until Margaret was back in the picture. The thing is, all of the emotional distress that Mordecai put CJ through wasn't even worth it because he and Margaret don't even end up together in the end, so he literally was just a jerk for the sake of being a jerk. We obviously know that Mordecai can put forth the effort for someone he likes if he truly wants to, but ultimately this character fumbles, and he fumbles hard because it seems as if he is immune to maturity and actual growth. Before ending this video, we have to talk about some of the animated couples that I truly believe are soulmates. What classifies as a soulmate is up to personal interpretation, and the definition of love is different for everyone. Someone once told me that their idea of loving someone boiled down to whether or not you'd be willing to die for someone. Would you be able to give up your own life so that the person you cherished could keep theirs? If this were the true definition of love, then there is a couple that definitely comes to mind. Kirito and Asuna met in a crazy situation where every day could pretty much result in the permanent loss of your life, and somehow they still found the time and opportunity to love each other through it. Being stuck in a virtual world where death in a video game means death for yourself in the real world means every battle is a matter of life and death. With these two characters, they could have chosen the easy life, living in safety, waiting for someone to free them from this world, but instead they decided to fight alongside each other, serving as each other's sword and shield, fighting for the chance to live out their days of freedom together. The love story between these two characters doesn't always get to be a cute or romantic one, because their relationship's foundation is built on a constant battle against oppression. But whether it's on or off the battlefield, the relationship that these two characters have is deeply rooted in trust, communication, and passion. If laying your life on the line countless times for the one you love is the definition of soulmates by certain people's standards, then that explains why when I see this couple, I see two characters who would go to the ends of the earth for each other. So sometimes loving someone means laying your life on the line for them, and other times loving someone means that they help change you for the better, and this was the case for Shrek and Fiona. I will forever scream from the rooftops that Shrek has one of the best character development stories in animation, and I stand behind that. Seeing the kind of character that Shrek became when he was loved and accepted by Fiona is extremely heartwarming, and by Shrek loving Fiona enough to heal those parts of herself damaged by the weight of her curse proves that they were truly meant for each other. Shrek and Fiona's relationship is a beautiful representation of not judging someone on their appearance or their past, but instead on their heart and how they make you feel. Shrek was swearing off everyone, desiring a life of solitude, but it was obvious that although he was vocal about wanting to be left alone, that he was saddened by it at the same time. A character who was hunted down and tormented by those around him was able to cave over the love of a princess who showed him that life truly is better with someone to share it with. Fiona literally gave up her human form multiple times because for once in her life her curse wasn't seen as something hideous or frightening, but instead something beautiful. From the humor, fights, and romance, Shrek and Fiona have a relationship many people could only dream of. The way that romantic relationships are represented in animation can vary from what we've explored in this video. The representation of romance in series like these is important because they paint a picture of what healthy and unhealthy relationships can look like so that we know how we should be treating our partners, but also knowing the kind of treatment that we should be and not be putting up with. But what do you think? Who is your favorite animated couple? Do they come from a children's show, a movie, anime, an adult animated series? Let me know down in the comments below. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like, turn on notifications so you never miss a video in the future, and leave a comment down below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!